Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, John Shulli. John, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be a very productive next 20 minutes or so. And so the idea here is to let our audience know who you are, what you stand for. Why don't you start by giving us kind of a brief overview of you and your candidacy, John?
Yeah, so I'm John Shulli, Army Colonel and Republican candidate for United States Senate for the great state of Delaware. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. I went to college in Arizona, joined ROTC to pay for it, and 30 years later, I'm a full-bird colonel in the United States Army. So when I was a brigade commander, it was my job to put mission first, but people always. Because building and protecting the team enable us to win every time. And I want the same for the people of Delaware.
Let me ask you this. What is the biggest mind shift that you've had to do when it comes to moving from military command to getting ready to run for office?
Patience.
Yeah.
Absolute patience. Now, being in the military, you're used to a regimented style and things are scripted to a sense. But the military does teach you critical thinking. It does teach you to think outside the box. We have to. And you need that in a political race because there's so many opinions. There's so many ideas. And what I found is you have to have a vision that's unifying. Because everyone will look, say, like, Make America Great Again. Great example of a vision. Everyone has a different view of what that is.
What that is.
From a different angle, whether you're liberal or conservative or the whole spectrum. You look at that vision differently and you approach it differently. But a really good vision means that no matter how you're looking at it, you're all in lockstep moving forward. Maybe from different angles, but you're trying to get to that vision. So I find that Delaware does lack a vision. I've been overseas for 20 years, and folks do not understand what is Delaware. They say, what state is it in?
Yeah.
You know, so Delaware lacks that kind of punch of what it is. And so my going in position is, well, let's put Delaware on the map. Make Delaware energy independent. Make it the jobs factory of the 21st century. There are many things we can do in Delaware to put her on the map, mainly because she's a small state. Her governance is small enough that we can turn quicker than any other state in the union.
Yeah.
That's a huge competitive edge, which we have not taken advantage of. So a great example is small modular reactors. President Trump in his nuclear renaissance mission, he's had companies turnkey criticality for small modular reactors another year. That's never happened before because we've tapped into the creativity and the resourcefulness of the American spirit. And I think 2028 is when these first reactors will be commercially available. I want Delaware to be the first state to have these reactors. We have like 3 of them. We meet the daily demands of all Delaware right out of the box. And these things are about the size of 3 McDonald's each. So they're quite small.
We have a lot of different ground we can cover here, but going into your military background, I know, for instance, Veterans Affairs is a priority for you. How would you leverage that military background to improve, say, local VA health services, mental health support for Delaware veterans? What's the plan of attack there?
Yeah, signing up. So I talked to the secretary here in Delaware, and she said the biggest problem in Delaware and across the nation is having veterans sign up for the VA.
Yeah.
They either assume they already have it or they're doing okay, they're fine financially, what have you. But by signing up, you help your buddy out. So mass informational push for all of Delaware veterans. Go and sign up for the VA once you've retired because the numbers count. It's kind of like if you're a military member, you'll get this. When you go into a gym, you sign in. So the gym knows how many folks are using the weights and on the treadmill.
Yeah.
So when they go for budget, they go, hey, we have so many people coming in, so we need X amount of money to keep the lights on. Same thing with the VA. We gotta push the enrollment as much as possible. So then the money flows. And then the capabilities arrive. Well, we need a hospital in Sussex County because folks are having to drive a couple hours to get things done.
Right.
But if you have the numbers, you can show big VA where to put the money. Oh, it's a check the box, easy. And the complaints I've heard is basically because those numbers don't exist, even though they exist in reality, they don't exist yet in paper.
Yeah.
So folks can see it.
Now, that certainly makes good sense. I have to, just again, because of your background largely, I have to ask you about the situation that's unfolded in Iran in recent months, your thoughts on it, and also what you see as perhaps maybe an overall military inefficiencies look, or how you're viewing the way money is spent in the military right now.
Well, we're not spending enough.
Hmm.
Particularly, I'll get to it right. Let me talk about what you just said about the infrastructure of the military. Our defense industrial base is so weak and small that we have to outsource South Korea to build our Aegis cruisers, destroyers. That's huge. Our top line, most high tech equipment, we're having foreign nations build for us. We have to spin up hundreds of thousands of tradesmen and ship workers to get back to where we were prior to the 70s. That's priority number one for the Department of War.
Yeah.
And so we need that money, that financing to spin that all up. Now, let's go into the Iranian, the Middle East theater, strategically, operationally, and tactically. At the strategic level, put my war college hat on for you. At the strategic level, we won. We won months ago. Iran has been contained. The Straits of Hormuz, either on or off, is not an issue for the United States of America because we have moved the political economy of global energy production, insurance, shipping from the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of America. We've had a huge strategic victory. And that shift has enabled the Board of Peace, has enabled the Abraham Accords to be aligned and to come online. Because every Middle East country is with the United States on containing Iran. They all know the problem. 50 plus years of sectarian religious violence has to end. Hamas agreed to disarm, mainly because we've cut the money flow from Iran. Folks are finally breathing a sigh of relief in the Middle East. There's a road to peace. And that road to peace is, saying the words so often, is the Board of Peace, created by Donald Trump.
Hmm.
And the financial arm of that Board of Peace will enable Jordan, UAE, Oman, Egypt, all these countries to benefit from economic growth in the future.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to WDEL's Election Watch coverage. We are introducing you to candidates over the next few weeks, and today we're talking to Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, John Shulli. What a lot of people might not realize is you have a very extensive AI experience as well, John. I'd be interested to kind of get your thoughts on the use of AI, I guess protecting privacy and jobs, but without smothering the technology that comes with it. What's that balancing act look like?
Right. So first, let's start with is AI. AI is nothing more than statistics at scale. So it's a algorithm that looks at a huge database and uses probabilities to create an outcome. One word predicts the other and so on. And not only words, but you can use, say, predicting how proteins will fold, predicting how different materials will react. Like, how can we make the heat shield for Elon Musk's Starship a reality? Well, you can use like high-end AI bots and a lot of power to do a couple thousand years worth of experiments over the weekend and figure it out.
Right.
So that is the huge power of AI. That's why every nation on the planet needs to corner this technology. Because from a military point of view, the country is able to master this technology, reach artificial general intelligence, or just have the tech in line to have these military type discoveries. You make the better armor. You make a better energy weapon. You make just better nuclear energy or even fusion. This technology, this AI, will enable you to make a step change in tech compared to your neighbors.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of going from, stones and sticks of a caveman to a machine gun. That's how much of a leap that's possible with AI. And you'll have Vladimir Putin, who said a few years ago, he who controls AI will control the world. So we are in a race for dominance of, not the planet, but dominance of information, of tech, of the ability to stay above the fray of other nations who are pursuing very hard, especially China, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, does it simply note a change in our workforce? In other words, a lot of people are concerned about where their jobs are and how that is impacted by AI. Is it just an inevitable evolution we're looking at here, or what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, we're going from the typewriter to the word processor.
Yeah.
A lot of folks will change jobs. A lot of companies are hiring like crazy because if you think about it, if you have a technology that enables you to 10x your productivity with one person, great. Now, if I get 10 people, you can grow as a company, be really competitive in your space by having this leverage. So we're not seeing folks being companies not hire people. What we're seeing, is the fact that the industry is expanding almost exponentially. Now, if you're a college kid coming out of college, you don't see that right away. Because a lot of your H-1B visa folks are taking your job, especially if you're a tech guy. So that's one thing I want to crush is the H-1B visa process. It used to be for high-end folks who are exquisite in their technology and know-how that would help America or a particular industry. Right now, it's being used as a way to lower costs for labor for high-tech companies. We got to end that. We got to unwind that because kids coming out of college, they need those entry jobs. And no, AI is not taking all these entry jobs. Most of these jobs are taken in this H-1B visa realm. They're the ones taking the jobs from the American kids.
Yeah. That situation you referred to, do you want to eliminate it altogether or just enact very, very strict regulations on it?
Strict regulations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to choke things off.
Yeah.
But it's been abused. When I was in college in Arizona, I was at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I did a aviation computer science degree. And my instructor told me, hey, John, you may not be slinging code the next few years because we'll bring in immigrants to do that. You'll be sweeping the floors before you're doing code. Like join the Army. So, so this arbitrage of labor between the United States, people in the United States and overseas, that has to be not easy for companies to take advantage of.
Sure. You're listening to John Shulli. He is a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate here on Delaware as we continue our election watch coverage. I guess we get down to brass tacks with this. The Delaware economy, local concerns regarding cost of living and inflation along these lines. What's kind of your perception of what's taking place here? A lot of families are in a tight spot financially right now. And what would your process look like to make things better for Delaware families here?
Yeah, so Delaware's a one-trick pony. Our Chancellery core system makes up about half of our state's income. 30% of just solid franchise tax money. And then the other 20% is the ecosystem around it. Your lawyers, your accountants, your bankers, and folks who support them. And then there's the beach. And then there's the Amazon fulfillment center. And then you have farming. That's not plan B. There's no fallback position in Delaware. So if you're not in that ecosystem that takes up 50% of Delaware's income, if you're not a farmer or if you're not part of the service industry, you're kind of stuck in the middle in these low-end logistic companies. And there are a lot of them, and they're doing great work. But there's not the robust amount. We're not building things anymore in Delaware.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the power. So if I, take out my magic wand, I would start building power capacity in Delaware again and across the United States. But definitely in Delaware. Delaware's sharing power with 13 other states, and we're paying for it big time. One of those states happens to be Virginia, where it's the largest concentration of data centers on the planet.
Right.
So, and we're helping to subsidize the upgrading of transmission lines and power, what have you. No. We got to build our own power base here in Delaware, become energy independent, and become attractive for industry. I want kids to graduate from University of Delaware and stay in Delaware because companies are here because we have cheap power. We have cheap compute. So cheap power, cheap compute, lots of brain power. That's big money for companies. They will gravitate to Delaware and become that plan B, C, D, and F in Delaware.
You are listening to Election Watch coverage here on WDEL. I'm Peter MacArthur. Thanks for joining us today. Let's talk Sussex County for a minute. You hit on a little bit of this. It's a major agricultural and coastal hub. What about plans there, states that support the poultry, the farming industry, and also the coastal resilience aspects of things as we sit here with being the lowest level state in the nation and some of the threats that go along with that? From that environmental perspective, what do we need to do?
Well, Delaware's not sinking into the sea anytime soon. That I'm not worried about. Poultry, farming, the congestion in Sussex is they're a victim of their own success in many ways. Delaware has lower taxes compared to the rest of the area. Folks from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, they're fleeing the high blue state taxes to go to Delaware. And ironically, that that population moving into Delaware also wants high taxes. So we got to fight back in the form of hiring Republicans to be the opposition party in Delaware. See, a lot of these issues we have in Delaware is because we've had a single party rule for over 20 years. You have this apathy of folks in power and also voters. We have an election period coming up where many, many seats of both Democrat and Republican are going unchallenged. No one wants to put their hand up and say, I'll run for this office or that.
Right.
Because what to quote Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make? So that voter apathy affects how government acts. So if government has their feet are not being held to the fire, and they break something, don't worry about it. We'll fix it next year. No. We need a opposition party in Delaware to push the party in power to do things that are right for Delaware and get off their butt and actually do things. That's not a downtrace problems. Downtrace problems will fix themselves once you have a government in Delaware that is fearing for their job because they know the Republicans are nipping at their heels and may even take over because of their lack of input and leadership in Delaware.
Delaware's not elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate, I believe, 26 years now. I'm just curious, clearly you have identified a lot of issues and have theories on how to make some of these issues better. When it comes to running for office in Delaware, what made you move from an observer to a candidate? What are some of the impetus that pushed you into action, John? Because a lot of people look at the political process now, the candidacies, and say, why would I want to get involved in that? Why would I want to expose myself and my family to that stuff?
It started when President Trump was shot and Charlie Kirk was murdered. From a military point of view, we moved from political rhetoric and we crossed the Rubicon to kinetics. A republic cannot survive that. And again, my military background, my leadership experience, being a brigade commander, it all told me, John, you need to do something. You're back home now. When I was in Iraq and I saw a C-130 flying over, I was like, oh, that's Delaware. I remember seeing all the C-130s flying over. And I thought Delaware had my back in Iraq. Now I'm back in Delaware. It's time for me to have Delaware's back. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing it. And I feel I have a chance, just based on the input of people here in Newcastle County, my neighborhood. I bring, the $4 million lawyer into my man cave and have a conversation. Hey, can I win? What's the state of play in Delaware? And folks are saying to me, not just that one lawyer, but many, John, we're looking for a conservative. We need someone to have be a bulwark against the Democrat machine here in Delaware because things are falling apart. And there are a lot of Democrats who just wear a D on their armband or to get invited to social meetings or parties to keep the contract for the business going. Because if you wear the wrong armband, not bad things, but things kind of don't run as smooth for you. That's an illusion. That's the mindset for the last 20 years has been no Republican can win. Or Democrats are too strong. They're 10 feet tall. There's no such thing as 10 feet tall. That kind of military thinking. Back in Stuttgart at U.S. European Command, we had to stamp down the idea that the Russians were 10 feet tall. In 2014, when the Russians went into Ukraine the first time, folks would say, oh, the Russians are too powerful. They have the advantage of distance. Yeah. Stop. The Russians are Russians. They're not 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
They're maybe 5, maybe 3 feet tall. We found that they're actually 3 feet tall when they went into Ukraine the second time in 22. Disastrous for them. So same with the illusion that Democrats are undefeatable. There's a lot of latent energy in Delaware, particularly Newcastle County, to save business. Because going with the Democratic Socialists of America route is really bad for business. And a lot of firms, again, this 50% of the income in Delaware are looking at this situation going, we need to hire Republicans to be the bulwark to stop the crazy from happening in Delaware.
You've hit on these here and there. Maybe we'll put this together in one package, though. But when it comes to federal policies that you might push to maintain that business-friendly environment and to create jobs here, what does your policy look like along those lines? Specific initiatives, if you will.
Yeah, so it's all about the American system of economics. The same system that Hamilton used to kickstart our American experience, the same system Lincoln used to rebuild, reconstruct the United States after the Civil War, the same system Roosevelt used to build the arsenal of democracy, World War II. And around the 70s, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, opened up China, and built this petrodollar system, globalization moved full steam into the United States and replaced our American system with a globalist system. My policies are about reversing that. Same thing what Trump is doing right now. Tariffs are very, very important. They protect our industry. You don't have, right now you have, well, prior to tariffs, which was initiated last year, you have companies that are able to straddle different nations and arbitrage resources and labor to their advantage. They can have localized monopolies at the detriment of America's. No more. I want Trump to have, or any president of the United States, to have instant use of tariffs to be at the negotiating table and battle with other nations and other corporations to go into the American favor.
We've talked about tariffs for some time now, and what I'm wondering is if the electorate will realize if there is, in fact, benefit of tariffs to them. Because, boots on the ground, a lot of people aren't feeling like tariffs are benefiting them, John. So that's a message you really would have to drive home on some level.
Yeah, so let's talk about what I just talked about, globalization. So if you're a global company, you say you grow lemons. You grow lemons from El Salvador at 10 cents. And you sell those lemons in Florida for 10 cents. And you crush all the farmers in Florida who are growing lemons. And after they're crushed, you raise the price to, say, $1 based on what Americans can pay.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have illegal aliens in Florida who can start growing those lemons at a lower cost than Americans. So now I'm able to arbitrage growing lemons in El Salvador, growing lemons cheaply in Florida, and selling them at a higher price in Florida to Americans. Now, what does that do for the American worker? Well, hey, in this scenario, he's not working on a farm anymore, or he's not a farmer anymore. And so prices have to be brought down to a really low level so you can afford them, because you're an Amazon driver. I mean, don't want to pick on Amazon, or you're a barista. You have these low-paying jobs, and the economy has to be super cheap for you to afford the things you need to live. Tariffs reverses that. Yes, prices will go up, but if you have a great paying job in manufacturing, production, actually building things, you have more than enough resources to buy the resources at the price of cost and labor to produce them. So again, we've been so used over the last, I'll say 40 years of buying the flat screen TV at ever lower prices. But that's been to our detriment. We should be building those TVs in the United States, and they should be at cost plus labor. And you have a great paying job, they can easily afford that cost plus labor.
Sure. We are kind of up against the clock. Got about a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure to give you kind of a closing pitch for a Delaware listener right now, John, who is undecided about the primary upcoming and the election in November. Tell us why you're the best candidate to represent us in Washington.
It's all about leadership. And I want to say to all the Republicans and Democrats out there, be brave. Be brave against the crazy that is the DSA, the communists, but also just be brave to engage in this political experiment called the United States of America. Be part of it. Smash through the illusion that you can't make a difference in Delaware. Everyone can make a difference in Delaware. If you want to be a candidate, go. If you want to support a candidate, go. Your involvement, no matter how small, when you times it by X amount, has a huge, huge push and advantage for the whole of Delawareans and America. We have 1 million people in Delaware. If we're able to step forward in lockstep to move the state forward in a political environment, in a production environment, in an energy environment, we'll rock and roll it all day long. Too easy.
The Delaware way.
Yes.
John Shulli joining us. He is